What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your $1,400 third stimulus check update, fourth stimulus check update, and daily related news. In this video, we're going to go over the new bill that the Democrats have introduced for a fourth stimulus check that is not just one stimulus check, but also monthly reoccurring stimulus checks. We're going to also go over the latest details on the people who are still waiting on the $1,400 stimulus check and the reconciliation process, which some people are getting confused about whether or not they can use it for the next stimulus check. And we're going to go over some alarming news from a former CDC director. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new updates on all the upcoming stimulus packages and provisions in the near future. The student loan forgiveness, which President Biden has already forgiven $1 billion of student loans. $200 per month Social Security increase, $15,000 home buyer credit, both of which President Biden wants, as well as the upcoming stimulus checks and the child income tax credits of $3,000 to $3,600. Don't forget to hit the like button and let's jump right in. The former CDC director has some alarming things to say here. Well, just listen in.
So Dr. Robert Redfield, the former CDC director, is speaking out for the first time, saying publicly where he believes the coronavirus that caused the pandemic came from. These extraordinary comments come in a new interview for a CNN documentary airing this weekend. Dr. Sanjay Gupta joins us now. And Sanjay, Dr. Redfield says he's giving his opinion, but I have to say, I think you're about to break some pretty significant news here.
Yeah, I mean, this was extraordinary, John, for certain. He is the former CDC director. He has spent his entire career as a virologist. I interviewed all 6 of these doctors sort of in the form of an autopsy, really to sort of meticulously dissect exactly what had happened here. Really no pre-agenda. Dr. Redfield, when we sat down to talk, he wanted to start at the beginning, the origins of this virus, what he believed actually transpired. Take a listen.
If I was to guess, this virus started transmitting somewhere in September, October in Wuhan.
September, October.
That's my own view. It's an only opinion. I'm allowed to have opinions now. I am of the point of view that I still think the most likely etiology of this pathogen in Wuhan was from a laboratory, escaped. Other people don't believe that. That's fine. Science will eventually figure it out. It's not unusual for respiratory pathogens that are being worked on in a laboratory to infect a laboratory worker.
It is also not unusual for that type of research to be occurring in Wuhan. The city is a widely known center for viral studies in China, including the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which has experimented extensively with bat coronaviruses.
It is a remarkable conversation I feel like we're having here because you are the former CDC director and you were the director at the time this was all happening.
For the first time, the former CDC director is stating publicly that he believes this pandemic started months earlier than we knew, and that it originated not at a wet market, but inside a lab in China.
These are 2 significant things to say, Dr. Redfield.
And that's not implying any intentionality. It's my opinion, right? But I am a virologist. I have spent my life in virology. I do not believe this somehow came from a bat to a human, and at that moment in time, the virus that came to the human became one of the most infectious viruses that we know in humanity for human-to-human transmission. Normally, when a pathogen goes from a zoonotic to human, it takes a while for it to figure out how to become more and more efficient in human-to-human transmission. I just don't think this makes biological sense.
So in the lab, do you think that process of becoming more efficient was happening? Is that what you were suggesting?
Yeah, let's just say I have coronavirus that I'm working on. Most of us in the lab, we're trying to grow a virus. We try to help make it grow better and better and better and better and better and better so we can do experiments and figure out about it. That's the way I put it together.
So let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I personally believe him. I think his opinion is probably correct. In fact, I've kind of thought this for a while, and well, you can let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, but I also think that China extensively tried to cover it up and still does to this day. You may think differently, but you can let me know your thoughts in the comments. Also, I'm getting some comments from some people who listen to some other source say that they don't think the next stimulus check can come until way later in the year with the use of the reconciliation process. And let me show you why that's not true. And this next stimulus package can include a stimulus check and it can happen very quickly. Number one is Bernie Sanders says he expects to use the reconciliation process for infrastructure, as you can see right here on the screen. I always like to show my sources. I like to show you it in black and white so you see that I'm not just saying something and what I'm saying is true. And Bernie Sanders is the Senate budget chairman. He's the person in charge of the budget reconciliation process. So he would know this process better than anybody. And remember, they passed the third stimulus check, the $1,400, through this reconciliation process, the reconciliation process. And the $1,400 was in this bill, the third stimulus check package bill. Bernie Sanders is saying he's expecting them to use the reconciliation process for the next stimulus package as well, the infrastructure package. And President Biden is planning to unveil this multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure package as early as next week. As you can see, this is dated March 25th here. Biden plans to unveil his multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure plan next week. The infrastructure bill is also included to include some tax hikes on wealthy Americans, corporations, and multiple different stimulus provisions, depending on what it ends up like when they finally pass it, including free community college, believe it or not. And here is the source for that, Forbes.com. Biden to propose free community college in the next big stimulus bill, the infrastructure package. There's multiple different things that could be or will be in this next stimulus package. But the main things to see is that Biden plans to unveil his infrastructure plan in Pittsburgh as early as next week, and Bernie Sanders says that they expect to use the reconciliation process for the infrastructure package. So the infrastructure package, they're going to pass likely through the reconciliation process. We know that they can include stimulus checks in reconciliation process bills because that is how the third stimulus check package was passed. And President Biden plans to unveil this plan as early as next week. So if you add those up, I hope that makes it pretty clear. That's why I like to show my sources and not just talk to you on the screen, because if I don't show you it in black and white, if I don't show you sources, it's not as credible as just blabbing at the mouth. So that's why I always like to show my sources and half the time read along with you if it's important, because, well, then you get to see it in black and white. Just like I had a lot of people question that Social Security was the one holding up the $1,400 third stimulus check package for the people that are waiting on Social Security. That's why I showed you article after article after article saying that Social Security, the U.S. House of Representatives, figured out that the Social Security Administration had not sent the files to the IRS, and that is what was holding up the $1,400 stimulus checks. And we now know that the Social Security has finally sent this over. As you can see here, 30 million people may receive their $1,400 stimulus checks after the Social Security Administration has finally sent the payment information over to the IRS. The transfer of information comes after Democratic leaders on the House Ways and Means Committee gave the Social Security Administration a 24-hour deadline, and they have now sent this over to the IRS. Quote, now the IRS needs to do its job and get these overdue payments out to struggling Americans, the House leaders said in a statement. That's why you can consider whatever I say pretty much as good as gold. I show you my sources, show you it in black and white. I show you press releases. I show you actual stimulus bills when they're announced, when they're released, when the bill is signed. I show you the votes. I show you pretty much everything on screen. And if you've been here for a while, you know that this has been going on forever. That's just how I roll. I just show you everything on the screen so you know it's true. Just like the fourth stimulus check bill that has been announced or proposed by Democratic leaders, Rashida Tlaib and Representative Jayapal, have introduced a new bill, a fourth stimulus check bill, for a $2,000 stimulus check, followed by $1,000 reoccurring monthly stimulus checks until the pandemic is over. Here is an actual press release from Rashida Tlaib's House.gov official government website. They have introduced a groundbreaking bill to deliver universal reoccurring payments for COVID relief. And as you can see here, this is kind of a long thing here. There's a lot here. But the main overview here is that they have introduced legislation to immediately provide a $2,000 stimulus payment to every person in America as critical relief during the COVID-19 crisis, followed by a $1,000 reoccurring monthly payments throughout the ongoing pandemic that that continues for 1 year after the end of the crisis to help our country and families recover. Okay. So this is a fourth stimulus check package bill. We've had dozens of other Democratic lawmakers pushing even before this bill has been released or this proposal had been released for monthly reoccurring stimulus checks. We have about a dozen of them in the Senate and a couple dozen of them in the House that were pushing for this before the third. Well, actually, yeah, right after the third stimulus check package passed, and they're already pushing to have this in the infrastructure bill. Another thing that Democrats are still working on is a way to increase the minimum wage. Democrats still want to raise it to $15 an hour. We have a counter proposal from the Republicans for $10 an hour, but Democrats are still trying to figure out a way to get it to $15 an hour. Key points here: a $15 minimum wage increase didn't survive the reconciliation process for the recent stimulus package. But two economists say they've come up with a proposal that could make it through the next one. Two left leaning economists say they've just figured out a way it could pass the Senate with just 51 votes, just as the third stimulus package did. Emmanuel Saez and Gabrielle Zuckman, economists from the University of California, Berkeley, proposed setting up an hourly pay increase through the tax code. They say that this would clear the budget reconciliation process, the process Democrats used to approve the third stimulus check package without Republican votes. Democrats included an increase of the federal minimum wage, $15 an hour, in the original bill, but the Senate parliamentarian ruled against including it and said the provision violated the reconciliation's strict rules. Ultimately, 8 Democrats sided against voting on it in the final bill. This is how it would work. The economists are proposing a tax on the gap between what employers pay and what lawmakers believe they should ultimately be paying, called an aspirational living wage. Lawmakers would decide on this amount, perhaps it's $15 an hour, like progressives have been pushing for, or a slightly smaller amount. If a business is paying its workers less than $15 an hour, such as the current minimum wage of $7.25, they'd see a new payroll tax under this policy. That tax would be equivalent to the gap between $15 an hour and $7.25 an hour, or whatever they were paying, in this case $7.25. So in this case, the tax would be $7.75. Basically, whatever they're paying less than $15 an hour would create a new payroll tax equal to that amount. The tax the employer would pay by paying less than $15 an hour would go right back to the worker as a refundable tax credit, which they'd ideally get immediately in a paycheck. Ideally is a strong word there because they'd have to set up an entire system to do that, and I'm not sure if that could be done. But either way, you probably get it in a tax refund credit, probably the more likely if they were to go this route. It could also mimic the incremental increase structure from policies like the Raise the Wage Act, with employers measured against a different percentage of living wage each year. And the Raise the Wage Act of 2021 basically shows how the $15 an hour minimum wage would likely work, is that it would go up to $9.50 immediately after passing a $15 an hour minimum wage bill, and then go up by about $1 to $1.50 per year until it gets there in the year 2025. What's notable here is that tipped workers, such as restaurant servers, would get to about $15 an hour by the year 2026 or 2027, as well as youth wage workers and 14C workers. So restaurant servers would also be making $15 an hour by the year 2026-27 instead of $2.13 an hour. This would be plus tips for restaurant workers, which is what they already get. So that would be a huge increase for restaurant workers. And really, the minimum wage increase is just one of the other kind of upcoming things they're trying to include in the fourth round of stimulus. The biggest hurdle really here is I don't think, well, I guess you could say a big hurdle is still getting it past the Senate parliamentarian. I think they could eventually figure out a way to get past her, like this criteria that these two college students came up with. But I think the bigger problem might be is getting the 50 votes in the Senate to do that. Because remember, they voted on this as an amendment for the third stimulus package bill, and it didn't pass. Only 42 people voted for it, 8 Democrats, including Democratic Senator Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, voted against it. So really the bigger hurdle is to get the 8 Democrats on board to pass it. And that's why I personally think we'll end up seeing a minimum wage passed this year closer to $10 or $11 an hour. $10 an hour is what Republicans, Mitch Romney and Tom Cotton, have proposed a counter bill for to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 to $10 an hour. That's still about a 50% increase, which is still a lot. Democratic Senator Joe Manchin wants $11 an hour. I personally think they'll be able to pass it somewhere around $10 to $11 an hour this year, probably somewhere near the fourth round of stimulus, which includes not just the infrastructure package, possible stimulus checks, but also student loan forgiveness. President Biden already did $1 billion of student loan forgiveness last week, and there's a lot more to be expected. And hopefully, the $200 per month Social Security increase, the $15,000 home tax buyer credit, and the permanent or more permanent increase of the $3,000 to $3,600 child income tax credits. They passed that in the third stimulus package, but it's only an increase for 1 year. And I personally think they're going to expand that more this year, as well as maybe another year of the $10,200 unemployment income tax free money that was retroactive and passed in the third package for 2020. So if you had unemployment income, the first $10,200 is tax free for 2020. I think they're also going to pass a provision in one of the upcoming stimulus packages to do that for 2021. There's a lot of different stimulus packages and provisions and details on the horizon. I'll keep you up to date on all of this, as well as more information on the $1,400 stimulus checks for Social Security recipients coming out as soon as we get it. If you haven't yet, subscribe down below. It's completely free to do so. This way you won't miss out on new updates. You can click the bell icon after you subscribing to get notifications, reminder notifications when we go live with new videos, which is 10 a.m., 3 p.m., 8 p.m., and 11 p.m. every day. Don't miss out on any episodes because I try to cover slightly different stuff every time. And you don't want to miss out on something that might pertain to you. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. I've had dozens of students replace their 9-to-5 income selling products on Amazon, and I teach them how to do that. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.